And here I am on a little plane flying over the Juneau ice field on my way to Little Juneau, Alaska. The footage is a little shaky because, well, the plane was a little shaky. Looking over some of these huge glaciers, you can see there's an airplane down there in the bottom right, and it's gone. Some of the larger glaciers coming off the ice field. There's an airplane there right in the middle. You can see it for scale. These are massive glaciers. In fact, this is the Emmons Glacier, and I believe here at the mouth it's 12 miles wide. And at its deepest point, the ice is 5,000 feet thick. You think you can walk on a glacier? I took this trip because I wanted to find out if I could walk on a glacier. To hike to a glacier and coming off of an ice field and find some ice caves was what I wanted to do. Heard about the ice caves. This is what it is, cruise ship stop. Everybody goes shopping. This is little Juneau, Alaska. Busy little town, no place to park. It's a lovely day. You can see there's plenty of things to shop. You know, they put a couple little shops there, so make it a nice destination for cruise ships. And then once the cruise ships start coming in, it becomes boom town. I think this is how Alaska works. I was immediately greeted by some locals, as you can see, and seeing these bears right there in town only gave me more of a excitement to head out on my hike. I'd seen a friend's pictures of a glacier and I got really excited about it, so I set off on my little summer journey. So this is just after sunrise, and you can see the glacier there on the left-hand side, and I think that's Mount Juneau. And I was excited to make every attempt that I could, with all the information I could, to hike out and get to that glacier. I know that there are a few trails that get you close, and then you got to go a couple miles where there are not trails. It was very wet, and rain and moisture, precipitation produces lots of moss, and there was just fields of this. I just wanted to lay down in it, take a moss nap. This little guy was all kinds of entertainment. Most of them just sleep in the trees. This guy was pretty active. They're also quite large. Oh, that is a fat little leaf-eating, eye-gouging terror of the jungle. I had to share the trail, as you can see. This is something Alaska is known for, is their black bears, and there is a lot of them. No, I do not carry a weapon when I hike. This is along the trail. Once I got off the main part of the trail, this was an area that in some years past had been chiseled out of the rock.
And what's more, this beautiful waterfall. No, that's the trail. Yeah, that's the trail.
That little cliff right there was the only way over this rocky bluff. The only way to get to the glacier, and probably the point at which most people go home. To get over certain parts, and this is continuing on the trail where in the wintertime, or really anytime there's rain, the trail just washes away. Beautiful streams full of salmon, and so I sat here for a while, and I was just hoping that a bear would come up. Lo and behold, here comes Smokey, and they're so lazy because there's so much abundance of food. And I was on a log across the stream and trying to be mindful. I have a zoom lens here, so I'm not as close as it looks, but I'm about as close as I don't know if I ever felt completely comfortable. I think the bear was much more concerned with the fish, probably used to seeing a hiker or two. She's a big girl. Probably gets terrible gas mileage. And if you wait long enough, you can see them catch fish. I was there a while, so I was getting pretty bored by the time she showed up. I say she, could be a he.
Alaska, the last frontier.
And this is the Mendenhall Glacier, what I really came for. And I'd heard there's ice caves if you walk along the base and the ridge of it, that the edges of it melt pretty well. And here I am up next to it. And this was a terrible hike of sinking in quicksand and ice and looking for ice caves, just going in every hole I could find and learning a couple things about those glaciers. They look dirty, but they are very slippery. This is solid ice. It's just unbelievable when you get underneath it and you realize that glacier, I don't know, in my mind I think I was thinking about packed snow, but that is not the case. These are solid ice. Miles and miles and miles. Just look how beautiful it is.
By the way, the glacier?
Slippery, slippery. The loud sounds of the melting glacial ice underneath that was a little bit disconcerting.
There it is. I'm sure that's safe.
This is a photograph I liked inside there. I'll do myself up in there. Just panning across the underside there. Quite surreal. I just tried to take my time, but it was cold, it was wet, and as I like to hike, I never take enough gear. I wasn't prepared for it to just be a deluge of rain outside with no cover. No cover inside because it was wet. That's a photograph I took inside there. And tennis shoes.
You got here a little bit. I mean, just look this thing.
I pushed myself against the sides of these just to wedge myself in there. It's fun. You can sort of slide out. So I was having a good time. And then I decided I was going to give a shot at walking up on the ice. And I had little ice cleats for my shoes, but I have to tell you, it's really slippery. And as you can see, these little crags and indentures are the size of a house. And if you slip, you're risking your life every step. So I found some flat spots and was messing around, but that's a big chunk of ice there. And I needed better equipment, but I definitely recommend trying this to anyone who finds a glacier. That's the only way I can walk on this, but I couldn't go up anything too steep. Some of the holes that you can look down in. This is about as steep as it gets that I can walk up before I start sliding back down. If you slip, you can go in a hole like that that's about 30-40 feet down. They only get deeper if you go further up in there. And you would never be seen. There was no one there. No one hikes this. I was completely alone as usual. So I have to limit my risks. It's important that you limit your risk when you're alone and far away from any help, obviously. And this is a photo of how it sort of, I feel like this shows how the glacier winds up the hillside there. Really spectacular in many ways. And this is panning from the glacier over to waterfall, which, you know, has a name, poor fella. I have a friend who I'd seen their pictures from the glacier. And so when I went to the glacier, they're like, oh, you took a helicopter ride. And I didn't realize that that's likely how they had gotten there. And I had just assumed that, hey, you can walk to it. So these are big, rugged mountains and difficult to pass through. But Juneau's pretty close, so it's not too long. It's a day hike in the summer. There's that big waterfall, and I thought, I'll go to the other side. And you can walk right to the waterfall if you're willing to wade through the icy bay, which of course I was. O Alaska, treasures of thy mountain strongholds, of all that is the boldest and most magnificent, none, not a one of these is more the stuff of legend than thy gold. O Alaska, there is a truth well known to thine old sourdough prospectors, that the real gold can be distinguished from lesser metals by the true difference that fool's gold glitters in bright sunlight, as contrasted to gold's yellowy glow in both sunshine and shadow. O my fellow seekers of romance and adventure, on the last frontier, I tell you true that there's an ever more imitable gold than that which gloweth yellow. Appreciate you watching my strange adventures. That's my trip to Alaska.